Speaker, I move to suspend the rules and pass H.R. 1693, the Equal Act, as amended.
The clerk will report the title of the bill.
H.R. 1693, a bill to eliminate the disparity in sentencings for cocaine offenses and for other purposes.
Pursuant to the rule, the gentleman from New York, Mr. Nadler, and the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Gomert, will each control 20 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from New York.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks and include extraneous material on H.R. 1693.
Without objection.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, H.R. 1693, the Eliminating a Quantifiably Unjust Application of the Law Act of 2021, or the Equal Act, would eliminate the unjust sentencing disparity between crack cocaine and powder cocaine offenses. This long overdue bipartisan legislation would allow defendants who were previously convicted or sentenced for a federal offense involving crack cocaine to petition for a sentence reduction. In 1986, Congress passed the Anti-Drug Abuse Act, which created mandatory minimum penalties for drug offenses and introduced a 100-to-1 sentencing disparity between crack cocaine and powder cocaine offenses. This meant that a person who distributed 5 grams of crack cocaine received the same 5-year mandatory minimum sentence as a person who distributed 500 grams of powder cocaine. A person who distributed 50 grams of crack cocaine received the same 10-year mandatory minimum sentence as a person who distributed 5,000 grams of powder cocaine. It soon became evident that this sentencing disparity had also created a significant racial disparity. 4 years after Congress passed the Anti-Drug Abuse Act, the average federal sentence for black defendants was 49% higher than the average sentence for white defendants. In the ensuing decades, the Sentencing Commission and many members of the law enforcement community strongly and repeatedly criticized the 100-to-1 ratio and urged Congress to address the disparity. As early as 1995, the Sentencing Commission began urging Congress to rectify this unfairness. Besides the troubling racial disparities in sentencing, the Commission also expressed concern over the significant differences in punishment between street-level dealers of crack cocaine and the powder cocaine suppliers who sold the cocaine in the first instance. Unfortunately, Congress failed to act on the Commission's proposed amendment to the sentencing guidelines to equalize the penalties for crack and powder cocaine. From 1997 to 2007, the Commission continued to warn Congress about the unjustified ratio, noting that there is, quote, no legislative history that explains Congress's rationale for selecting the 100-to-1 drug quantity ratio for powder cocaine and crack offenses, unquote. It provided evidence for its findings that the penalties exaggerated the relative harmfulness of crack cocaine, swept too broadly, most often applied to lower-level offenders, and mostly impacted communities of color. Congress, however, took no action, prompting the Commission to pass an amendment to the sentencing guidelines in 2007 as a partial and modest remedy to the urgent and compelling problems associated with the ratio. In doing so, the Commission unanimously and strongly urged Congress to take on its recommendations and to provide a comprehensive solution. In 2010, Congress finally acted by passing the Fair Sentencing Act, which did not eliminate the disparity, but which significantly reduced the ratio from 100-to-1 to 18-to-1. But the Fair Sentencing Act applied only to pending and future cases, leaving thousands of incarcerated people without a path to petition for relief. The First Step Act of 2018 made the Fair Sentencing Act retroactive, providing a pathway to relief for some, but not all individuals affected by the sentencing disparity. It is now past time to finish the job. The crack cocaine and powder cocaine disparity has greatly contributed to the rise of mass incarceration, devastated communities of color, and severely undermined public confidence in our criminal justice system. The Equal Act would finally equalize the treatment of powder cocaine and crack cocaine, 2 forms of the same drug, by eliminating the sentencing disparity. It would also provide a path to retroactive relief from a disparity that is not rooted in science, does not promote public safety, and fosters racial disparities. I commend Representatives Hakeem Jeffries, Bobby Scott, Kelly Armstrong, and Don Bacon for introducing this important bipartisan legislation, and I urge all members to support it. I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman